Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all courtesies observed. Whatever your circumstances or whereabouts, I trust that you and your loved ones are safe and well during these troubled times. I apologize for not interacting with you in live format today, but I'm one of the opening speakers at the annual meeting of UN Oceans, which is taking place consecutively, thus this video message to you. I'm closely interested in the subject of your discussions today, particularly in reference to the many aspects of SDG 14 that they will cover. Thus, I look forward to hearing from OECD on the outcomes of this webinar. I acknowledge the importance and timeliness of this OECD Fisheries review, coming as it does as we close in on the end of 2020 and the SDG 14.4 target of effectively regulating harvesting and ending overfishing, IUU fishing, and destructive fishing practices. The review's analysis of fisheries support management practices and policies to combat IUU fishing are all strong in support of SDG 14's delivery. The review's central message is that policies to ensure the long-term viability of fisheries and to protect and restore the ocean's resources and ecosystems can be reconciled with policies to address short-term socio-economic goals. However, I note it concludes that policy reforms need to be accelerated if progress is to be made on SDG 14 and the conservation and sustainable use of the ocean's resources. Ladies and gentlemen, when we reach consensus to bind ourselves to painstakingly negotiated international agreements, honest men and women are obliged to honor the intent and actions required of us by these agreements. The alternative to staying true to our agreements is to give primacy to the self-interests of our nations and groupings, progressing haphazardly, some would say freely, in the direction of what used to be called progress, but what is increasingly coming into focus as a state of unsustainability. This alternative of broken promises and lack of concern for the common good reflects a large slice of human history, and more of the same could be expected were it not for the fact that the realities of unsustainability have now reached existential proportions. From the reports of the IPCC, of IPBES, and of WMO, to the daily ecological disasters witnessed around the world, we're coming to understand the scale of the effects of global warming on the planet's environment, and only the shameless now deny the anthropogenic causes of our predicament. Continue on the current track of global warming, and throughout the lifetimes of our children and grandchildren, the Malthusian effects will be kicking in with increasing frequency and ferocity. We're in the middle of one of those effects right now with this COVID-19 pandemic. I sum up our predicament in the shape of coral. The IPCC's special report on the impacts of global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels states with high confidence that 99% of coral reefs will be lost when we go through the dreaded level of 2 degrees Celsius. Coral reefs are home to 25 to 30% of marine life. They're the bunkers of marine biodiversity, and it's an understatement to say that their loss will have major consequences for the health of the ocean. At this point, remember that we cannot have a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. Our predicament is that we're not heading to a destination of 2 degrees. The world is currently on track for warming of over 3 degrees by the end of the 21st century, as I've said, within the lifetimes of our grandchildren. Secretary General Antonio Guterres put it this way in his State of the Planet speech in New York last week. He said that humanity is at war with nature and that it's time for us to make peace. Ladies and gentlemen, it is through this lens that SDG 14 awaits its faithful implementation by us all. FAO's Sophia report this year showed that of the global fish stocks assessed, 34.2% are being fished at biologically unsustainable levels. It's difficult, therefore, to claim that we're hitting the SDG 14.4 target of effectively regulating harvesting and ending overfishing when this figure presents such an unpalatable reality. When it comes to SDG 14.4's overall progress, while much remains to be done, there are some strong positives in evidence, from increasing signatories to FAO's Port States Measures Agreement, to firm evidence of well-governed RFMOs resulting in biologically sustainable levels of catch, and from greater traceability along the supply chains the monitoring activities of non-state actors like Global Fishing Watch and the Global Tuna Alliance, we are putting the squeeze on illegal catch and the trade in overfished stocks. I won't comment on harmful fisheries subsidies other than to commend the work this year of Ambassador Santiago Wills, the chair of the WTO negotiating group, and the outcome-orientated negotiators in Geneva. I understand Ambassador Wills is going to address you during this webinar on the subject of fisheries subsidies. In your consideration of this subject, I would ask that you think of the precarious interests of the millions of small-scale artisanal fishers around the world, whose livelihoods are being destroyed by the large industrial fishing fleets that are the main beneficiaries of harmful fisheries subsidies. Ladies and gentlemen, time dictates that I close my remarks to you. I wish you well in today's discussions, and may you and your loved ones have a joyous festive season within the safety of your homes. And I thank you for your attention to my words.